Welcome back to a rare part 3. So we're still on Jean Piaget's stages of cognitive development, and we left off at a pretty important question. How can these stages help us be better teachers? Because isn't this what it's all about? I mean, these theories are interesting. I am a bit of a theory geek, but the point of them is how can they help us do our jobs better? And how can they help our students learn better? So let's delve into this. First of all, you obviously want to be knowledgeable of what stage your students should be in. Now, this is not to make broad assumptions or generalizations because, again, you have to always keep in mind individual differences. We are human beings, not robots. But this can help you set your expectations for your students, right? So what else? Well, you need to provide them practice in relation to the stage that they're in. Well, how does that work? So, stage 2 students, what do they need practice with? Conservation. So let them play with different types of objects. So liquids with different containers or balls of Play-Doh. They also need help with egocentrism, so help them with perspective taking. Stage 4, what do they need help with? Well, they need practice with things like hypothetical reasoning and proportions. So again, this helps you, going back to that idea of framing your expectations and knowing where to give them practice. The more experience they get, the more growth they're going to have through these stages. What else? Let them learn from their mistakes. Remember what Piaget is all about, and that is constructivism. That we learn by doing, that we are active, curious beings. This also helps us move beyond trial and error, which is helpful as well. So we're going to have a short video. You might recall this one back when we were covering stage 2 in conservation. So I gave my daughter the conservation of mass with the Play-Doh, and I smushed one and I said, so are they equal or does one have more? And she said this one has more. So I said, okay, great. And I stopped the video. I think she could tell from my reaction that perhaps she was wrong. She wasn't sure, so she continued to play with the Play-Doh, and I turned the recorder back on. So what are you doing with the Play-Doh now? Yeah? All right, so if you roll it in a ball and put it back on the tray, compare it to the other one now. Do they seem to have the same amount of Play-Doh now? So I want you to think about it. Does it make sense that just by doing this, that suddenly there would be more Play-Doh? Or does it just look different?
It just looks different.
So you can see she was eager to get it right. But by giving them experiences and helping them talk through it, you can help them get out of some of that illogical thinking. All right, so here's our disequilibrium moment, some food for thought. So check out these books. Have you ever seen this before? This is the Snow White story told from the Evil Queen's point of view. This is the Robin Hood story told from the Sheriff of Nottingham's point of view. And this is the Cinderella story told from the Wicked Stepmother's point of view, called That Awful Cinderella. Those are kind of unusual. I never thought I would read the book from Sheriff Nottingham. But how could you use these? How could these perhaps be helpful to you? Well, this actually relates to our next point. Help students see things from different perspectives. So let's go back. That could certainly do that, don't you think? In fact, there's another one for Peter Pan, and it is from the point of view of the adults, and it says, Peter Pan, grow up. So it certainly is interesting to see how the Robin Hood story might be looked at differently when you look at things from the sheriff's point of view, for instance. What are some other ways you might be able to help your students be less egocentric? Because remember, if egocentrism is about putting yourself in someone else's shoes, how can you help them do that? If you have some good ideas, I suggest you put them in your notes to help you with application. So again, here's the one I was just talking about. So Robin Hood and Peter Pan grows up. All right, so the way these books work, it's a special series by Streck Vaughn called the Point of View series. One side of the book is Robin Hood, the classic tale. Flip it over, turn it upside down. The other side of the book is The Sheriff Speaks. So for each one, it's the classic story on one side, the other point of view on the other side. What else? Well, after you read them a story, you can ask them questions, and this is obviously more for your elementary kids, about the main character. What was the main character thinking? Why might the main character have made the choices that he or she did? Or even have them put themselves in somebody else's shoes in the classroom or somebody else's shoes in history. This is also a nice one within the world of emotions. I know it's a little bit hard to read, but there are little things like Sophia won her softball game Saturday. How does she feel? Ethan is having fun playing at the park with his friends. How does Ethan feel? John's friend jumped out from behind a bush and yelled, "Hi." How does he feel? To understand that people have different emotions than they do, and I'll also help them identify different emotions. Here's one that you could use for older students. So whenever you're teaching a historical time period and you might have them write journal entries, have them write journal entries from different people's perspectives. All right, something else, use tangible examples. Now, obviously, this is most helpful before stage 4. By stage 4, they should be working on doing it in their head, but tangible examples are extremely helpful to your younger students. Here's an example. I love this one where the teacher actually made herself the atom. All right, so we're going to wrap up by having some sample questions because Piaget stages can be confusing. 2 students are read the parable. It's no use locking the stable door after the horse is bolted. Sam is confused and said he doesn't know much about horses. Trey says that the parable is about it being useless to take precautions when it's too late. Trey is most likely in which stage? What do you think? Well, if you said stage 4, you're correct. Trey's probably in stage 4 because he can see the abstract meaning or the figurative language behind that. Sam is perhaps more in the concrete operations stage because he's taking it very literally. Marcia's mom gives her money to buy a gift for her first grade teacher. She buys her teacher a stuffed teddy bear. What stage do you think Marcia might be in? If you're thinking through this question, you could go based upon the grade, but remember, not everyone exactly goes through these stages in the exact same way. But also, so she bought her teacher something that a kid would like. She is probably in the pre-operational stage. That fits perfectly for first grade. And in fact, let's touch base on that question again. Same example, different question. Oops, pardon my technical glitch there. Which cognitive limitation does this represent? The idea of buying someone a gift that you would actually like. Well, if you're thinking egocentrism or if you saw it already pop up, that is the right answer. So because a child is egocentric, they tend to buy you things that they like. Let's move along. Mark can solve the problem 16 plus -5 equals x, but he does need to use a number line. What stage is he probably in? Well, if you said concrete operations, you're correct. The reason it's concrete operations is because he needs to use a number line. Now, if instead it said he can do it in his head, well, that would be more likely stage 4. In which stage do individuals learn about the permanence of objects? Well, if you're thinking sensory motor, you are correct. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, objects? We're not talking about conservation here. We're talking about the permanence of objects, the fact that an object continues to exist even when it's out of your sight. Object permanence and sensory motor. Mr. Fletcher wants to teach a lesson on hypothetical reasoning. For this lesson to be easily understood, his students should be in which stage? Okay, so at which stage do they easily get hypothetical reasoning? Formal operations. Now, one of the keys to this phrase is that I said for it to be easily understood. Yes, you could do this at an earlier stage, but it would be quite challenging for the students. All right, so again, just some practice questions. This was a shorter one, but I just wanted to put this one separately. So thank you for your attention, and I'll see you next time.